So we are now live streaming, and I want to thank both of you for coming on to our show today. I'm Andy Staton, and with me I have Bill McCormick of CK Property Management and Shonda Kelly with the Revolution Group and Revolution Property Management. And today we're going to be talking about what's going on with the Mortgage Relief Fund. If you're someone who might be having some difficulty in paying your mortgage payment, what options might exist. If you're a landlord and perhaps your tenants are having some difficulty, they might be out of work, or you might be a tenant and you can't pay your rent, and what other options might exist for you. So I'll start with a disclaimer. I was told I should have one. So we are speaking in general terms about what's happening in today's market. Everyone's situation is different, and you need to talk to your bank, your organization, the person, your landlord, your tenant, individually determine what is the best and if any relief options apply to you. So we'll go ahead and get started. On background, Bill and Shonda, there is a lot of misinformation out there right now. The coronavirus relief law, or the CARE Act, has allowed affected borrowers with federally backed mortgages to request a payment reprieve of up to 12 months. I've heard 1 month, I've heard 3 months, I've heard no months. Some states have partnered with lenders to offer similar programs on mortgages, waiving up to 90-day payments. I mean, there just seems to be so much out there. And Shonda, of course, we're hearing that, that we're not allowed to evict folks that are not paying their rent, which, I think we all are showing a little bit of compassion, and I'm sure you're having some of that as well. So again, you guys are the experts, and we're going to dive right in. So I really kind of want to start on the mortgage side, and Shonda, anything you have to interject, please jump on in. But Bill, I got a couple questions for you. We're hearing a lot about the CARES Act and the mortgage forbearance. How does this help a struggling homeowner today?
Yeah, it actually helps in two ways, Andy. So the CARES Act is the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. All right. And the protections that are in place, the first one is for those that are actively in foreclosure. All right. Effective March 18th for a period of 2 months, so 60 days, the mortgage companies cannot foreclose on them, nor can they take their property to a sheriff's sale. All right. So for those that are already in the foreclosure process, they won't get foreclosed on during the next 60 days. Most likely, depending on how everything goes, that may be extended, but there is no hard and fast rule right now other than 60 days. The second thing, which you mentioned already, and most folks are hearing about, is the forbearance. And I like the fact that you talked about federally backed loans, because that's the one caveat here. If my mortgage is a conventional mortgage and it's privately held, all right, meaning it's owned by an institutional investor, I don't necessarily have the ability to qualify for the CARES Act. So the CARES Act allows a homeowner to request initially a 6-month moratorium on their mortgage payments. And then they can extend that up to 12 months. However, in preparation for this call today, I went on Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's website. I went on Bank of America, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, and Mr. Cooper, formerly Nation Star. And they all kind of say the same thing, but one example is Mr. Cooper. It says that, we may put you on like a 3-month plan initially, see how things go, and then extend out. So it's really a moratorium on your mortgage payments. It's not a forgiveness, okay? Right. So the key thing for folks is they want to ask their mortgage company, whoever it might be, is my loan Fannie, Freddie, VA, USDA, FHA, because only those mortgages will apply to the CARES Act.
Okay. If I'm having trouble paying my mortgage, so there's two things, I guess my question follow-up is, I have a mortgage at PNC. I actually don't know if it's a federally backed loan or not. I mean, do people know that? And then I guess the second question is, when should I start the conversation if I can't pay my payments today?
Yeah, and The Mortgage Bankers Association put some statistics out, and the short answer is when you first realize that you cannot make payments, all right, or you don't have enough money to make the full payment, that's when you should contact the lender. The Mortgage Bankers Association has put stats out that, just to give you an example, between March 2nd and the 16th, forbearance requests grew by 1,270%.
Wow.
Between March 16th and March 30th, Mortgage Banker said forbearance requests increased another 1,896%. So the banks are bombarded. So the mortgage companies on their websites, they're like, if you can afford to pay your mortgage now, continue to pay it. Once you realize that you don't have the ability to pay, then call, because their call centers are flooded right now. But if you have a Fannie or Freddie Mac back loan, there's actually an online lookup tool where you can go online and plug in your address, the last four of your social, and it'll tell you whether you have a Fannie or Freddie Mac back loan. But the simplest way is just call the lender and ask them, is your mortgage federally backed, yes or no?
Okay. And so really you've already answered my next question, is to find out if I'm eligible, I need to just call. So if I can't make my payment, call now, call ASAP, right? Start that conversation. Don't get 60 days.
It has to be COVID related. It has to be COVID related.
Okay. And you started to address already, do I have to pay it back? The answer is they're not actually giving you relief. They're just giving you an opportunity to extend the payment to another day. If I know, for example, I saw some literature by PNC and said they would give a 90-day forbearance or 120 days, but that 4 months of payment was due in 4 months. And I think what it said, that if I needed to renegotiate, or if I wanted to renegotiate the payment then to be an extended plan, they might do a modification to the loan or something like that. You have any comments on that?
Yeah. So, and you're right on, because that's why I wanted to look at the different websites of B of A, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, and Mr. Cooper, because I want to see how they address that, because the CARES Act does not mandate, other than, hey, here's your forbearance that you have as a homeowner, but it doesn't really mandate for the mortgage companies, here's how you need to treat that. But here's typically what they're saying. All right. And using that example, Andy, let's say I have a 90-day forbearance. My mortgage payment is $1,000 a month. So I don't have to pay May, June, and July. Well, in August, all right, my August payment will be for my normal $1,000, but also that will be due, if I have a 90-day forbearance, is the last 3 months. All right, or the 3 months of forbearance. So I'm going to owe $4,000, all right, come August, if I have a 90-day forbearance, using that example. Here's the challenge. The mortgage companies are saying at that time, we'll look to extend. If you can't pay back, we'll work out a payment plan, or a repayment plan, which a repayment plan could mean everything from, instead of $1,000 a month now, you're going to pay us $1,500 a month for the next X number of months till you pay us back. Or for folks that have to go out 6 months or 12 months, let's say now they've accrued $18,000 of back payments and they're not working. All right. Now they're going to look at a trial loan modification, or a loan modification program, which could extend the term out. So if you look at all the, like, CFPB is very specific, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, that these borrowers that are doing this need to document everything, write it down, because you don't know. All right. I spoke to somebody the other day that's under a forbearance plan, not related to COVID. Her mortgage company is trying to push her term out from a 30-year to a 40-year term. So consumers, homeowners, be very aware that if you don't have the ability to pay it back in full, you're going to have to go on some payment plan.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's actually good for people, right? That's really, really good for people. I mean, that might make the payment a little more manageable, and on and on. So, Bill, what other issues should we look out for? Like, impact of credit score, if you were to go after this. And then do you have any other final thoughts on this?
Yeah. So the credit score, that's the positive about the CARES Act, is that during this period, from all the research I've done, is they cannot report these missed payments to the credit bureaus. All right, because you were actually, again, no one thought that this type of event was going to occur. It's a hopefully once in a lifetime event. So for right now, there is no impact on your credit score if you are under forbearance. What happens after that, I have, the mortgage companies really can't say and aren't saying at this point in time. The only thing that I would say to watch out for is for that homeowner is if they, at the end of this term, depending on how much money they were in the forbearance plan, if the mortgage company looks to put them on a loan modification, all right, if they have, and let's use that example, $18,000 that accrued and no way to pay it back. What we've seen in the past for folks that have done loan modifications, the mortgage company takes that dollar amount and they can't really do anything with it. So what they do is they say, well, we'll move it to the back of your loan. And then they put a second mortgage known as a partial claim. So for anybody that is thinking about down the road here doing a loan modification, make sure that they ask, my recommendation, the lender, that, hey, if you are going to put me on a loan modification, does that mean I'm going to have a second mortgage on my property? Because that will have to be paid in full when they go to sell.
Okay. All right. Hey, I appreciate that guidance. So anything else that we should know? I mean, I want to dig in with Shonda a little bit, and because we know there are a lot of people out there that may not be getting their rent. So anything.
Yeah, I mean, really, I mean, that's really the key thing. And the other, just one thing I will say is for fraud protection, okay, the mortgage companies have every right, and they will ask for pay stubs, bank statements. They want to make sure that people aren't trying to take advantage of the system. So for anybody that is going to look at forbearance, be prepared to provide financial information showing that you can no longer afford the mortgage.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. I appreciate your guidance on that. Shonda, boy, you must be in the thick of it right now.
We are, yes, sir.
I know that, I know a lot of folks that own rentals down here at the beach side, lots of temporary rentals, but really who own houses and condos that they rent full-time and year round. And a lot of folks that are renting them tend to be in the service industry or in an industry that's not considered essential business, and likely they're not getting paid rent. So correct. What do you mean?
So we've noticed that we try to get ahead of it kind of on the onset of us getting locked down. We sent out as much information as we could to our tenants and our owners. We told them, if you can't pay, the key to everything with what I'm talking about, what Bill talked about, is the communication. It is getting ahead of it, letting your landlord know you cannot pay for the COVID reasons. And he's accurate. We're asking for documentation as well. We don't want to hear that you just can't pay, and we know you're an essential worker. If you're not an essential worker and it has been hit, then we're expecting some things. We're expecting that they apply for the assistance that's available to them right now. Delaware State Housing Authority has a program specific for COVID-19 people that are affected by the health crisis. With that, they can apply for up to $1,600 towards their rent payments in assisting with trying to keeping them moving forward and afloat.
I didn't know that, and people are successfully today applying to that Delaware program, and they're getting like rental assistance and things like that. That's amazing.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. They are absolutely responding. They are absolutely getting the assistance. They have a backlog now, so it's taking about 3 to 4 weeks for them to get back to the potential applicants, but they are getting back and they are funding.
Okay. Okay. I mean, that's good guidance. I mean, and so if you are 4 weeks behind, what guidance are you giving to your landlords now? Obviously, they're not going to evict anybody at this point, but what kind of guidance are you giving to them, and what has been their response so far?
So that's been kind of a mixed bag of emotions and comments based on the actual landlord and their particular circumstances. Fortunately for most of our particular landlords, they are essential workers, so they're still getting paid and they're able to pay their rent. So there is a bit of more compassion than other ones that aren't essential workers and they can't pay. And then they have tenants that aren't essential workers and can't pay. So there are, the SBA had put out the emergency funding for the small business owners. What we were able to identify was the rental owners are considered small business owners. So they are able to apply for those grants as well.
Okay, all right, that's great guidance, because I mean, unfortunately, a lot of folks who rent their property might have mortgage payments themselves. If they're not getting rent in, right, they start to feel pinched. They move into Bill's area, right,
Yes.
and go back to Bill's guidance, right? I mean, I don't even know what the mortgage companies are doing for second homeowners or investment properties or rental properties. That's a whole nother beast. You probably should go back to your bank and start talking to them right away.
Absolutely. And we're finding that most of them are working with them. They are providing the forbearances and they are providing some of our owners that have had issues prior to this that are on modifications. They're extending things for them. But same thing that Bill said, talk to your mortgage company. They are working with you, whether it's your first home or it's a second home. Right now, the way the industry is, their hands are tied with being able to do foreclosures and things of that nature. So they are more willing to absolutely assist now. Can't say
And
that.
are you finding that landlords are modifying the rent? If it's $1,000 this month, it's $500 for the next 2 months?
No, I've not found that my landlords have been in agreement to doing that. They've been in agreement to wait. And we aren't charging any late fees. We aren't proceeding with eviction. And the one thing that I want to be clear on, because you had mentioned it earlier, that the courts have tied our hands with being able to evict the tenants. They've done that. They've tied our hands from being able to evict the tenants, but we absolutely can still file. So what that means is if you're behind and you have a landlord that doesn't have the same compassion, or you have an owner that doesn't have the same compassion, it is important that you pay. You make every attempt to pay, to try to pay something, make arrangements, call for these resources, because we can file in court and it is being accepted. They're just being held until we can actually process.
Okay. I mean, any other guidance you have today from a landlord and my tenant isn't paying? I mean, basically just stay the course. If I were a landlord today and I said, can the tenant afford any payment? I know they're not really doing that yet, but I mean, do you think they're going to negotiate?
Yes, I do. I think that with this being almost the essential first month that this has happened, I think we'll have different conversations next month. I think it'll be more about what can you pay? How can we put forward a payment plan to where we can get you guys back on track, maybe by the end of the year, or depending on how long it takes us to get out of this. But I do think those dialogues are going to come. Most of my homeowners are very compassionate. They are very understanding of the situation. And honestly, they want to see an effort. If you can only pay $100, then pay $100. Don't not pay because somebody else has bills as well.
Yeah, that's going to show a lot of commitment, to try to keep whole at least, or
Absolutely. Absolutely. And more importantly, there is funding available. Go get it. Because as a landlord, if you have funding available to you and you are not attempting, then what accountability do I have towards you? So it's important. There's funding available. They're giving it to everybody. Apply.
Okay, that's great guidance. And I hope there's a lot of people that will heed that guidance after today. Bill, I want to circle back one more question for you.
Sure.
If I'm not able to make the payment, I've worked out the forbearance with the mortgage company. What about taxes and insurance?
So the way the forbearance is working, excuse me, if your insurance and taxes are included in that mortgage payment, all right, they will also be part of the forbearance, so that they won't have to be paid. If they are paid outside of your mortgage payment, they're still due when due. All right, was that your question?
Yeah, that's pretty much my question. And so if you can't pay your taxes, boy, I guess a call to your county government to ask them, and maybe the insurance company as well.
Yeah. And that's the one thing that, the escrow monies that are used towards the insurance and taxes will be part of the forbearance.
Okay, good. Guys, any last and final thoughts?
I'd like to say that the rental department hasn't slowed down. We are still seeing properties come on the market. Kent County, in the last 30 days, we saw 23. Newcastle County, there was 81. In Sussex, there was 20. So there are rental properties that are still coming available. There are tenants that still need places to live. So it hasn't crashed. So we're still moving forward. But for the ones that are in place, that's where we're seeing the struggle at. And again, apply. For the tenants, it's destatehousing.com/DEHAP /. So apply for the funding and do your part. I think everybody has to do their part. You know, we're nationally, we have a problem and everybody has to do their part.
Great. I can't thank you enough. And just kind of my final thoughts for the folks that are going to be watching this. This is not a get out of free payment card, right? It's not approval for any guaranteed relief. You should only use these types of programs if you need to, but know through the expert guidance of Shonda and Bill who are with us today, that it is absolutely available and you got to get ahead of it and out in front of it. So start with your lender, start with your rental management company, start with your landlord, get ahead of it so that you can make sure that you're not going to have any problems going forward is when this all starts to shake out. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate both of you joining me today. I found it extremely valuable just in my knowledge in real estate and the folks that I'm talking to every day. And, I'll make sure I have your contact info in case anybody wants to talk to you about either one of the respective areas of mortgages or rentals. So thank you again.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Andy. Be safe. Be well.
Safe.
Thank you, guys. Take care. Bye.
Bye.